Now, as we get ready to start drawing the interior walls, we don't start just drawing lines because how will we know where to put these lines to make sure that they're exactly 5/8 from the exterior wall? That's not very easy to do necessarily. But we already have outside wall lines, so we can use the copy command or offset command with a specified distance of 5/8 in order to get these lines to be where they need to be. So that's an easy option using what you already have in order to get additional lines on the interior. So I'm going to use this 5/8 dimension first, and I'm going to use a copy command, and that's going to leave the offset command set to 4 inches, so that will be useful in a minute. So I'm going to select my object first. Again, you could start the command first if you wanted, and then CO space. If I know a distance and direction, then the base point is not super critical. I can click a point in space as long as I slide my mouse in upward direction with my polar or ortho on, and then type in my 5'8" with 5 foot mark and 8 inches, and then enter. So now I know that that new line is 5'8" from the outside line. So again, be cautious. I went from the outside wall line because that's where the dimension came from here. If the dimension was from the interior line, I would have had to copy that one, the 5'8". Or you could have done the math, knowing the wall thickness, but obviously that's just one more step. So now if I want to offset that wall line for the thickness, notice the 5'8" goes to the top of the bathroom wall. So I would then offset that down in order to put my thickness on the right side. So I'm going to do O for offset. My 4 inches I'm reusing from before. So you can see it's in the command line in the pointy brackets. Anything in pointy brackets is the default, usually because you've used it before. So I can just hit enter or space to accept that. I don't need to retype it. Now select the object. I want this line. And then I want to go down because of the way that the dimensions are shown on the plan. So now I have those two lines right where they need to be. Now I can repeat that again for the bathroom horizontally. In this case, there's an additional dimension here of 210 for the bathtub. So I would either have to add those two dimensions up, or I can do the bathtub line first and then copy for the wall lines. And to me, that seems easier. So I'm going to select the outside wall line, copy that over my 2'10". Again, I selected my line, did a copy command, clicked an arbitrary base point because I know a distance and direction. So then I slide my mouse to the right and type in my 2'10". Now I can copy this over the, I think it's 5'10". Yes, 5'10" from the bathtub line to the outside of the bathroom. So select my line, copy, base point, slide mouse, 5'10", and enter. So there's the outside wall of the bathroom. So now I will offset that back 4 inches to the left. So now I have the bathroom wall lines in. Now I'm going to clean up some of these lines. It's starting to get a little confusing almost because there's lines everywhere, right? Well, the bathtub lines is this simple L shape, which we have here, but there's a lot of extra line on the end that we can trim off. Again, I'm going to use fillet because this is an L type corner, so that's a very fast way to do that. So F space, my radius is 0, so all I need to do is select these two lines, and then I'm going to repeat the same command by right clicking, select these two lines, and now I have my nice L corner there. Now, the rest of the trimming that I need to do is not L corner trimming, so to speak, so I'm going to use the trim command for these. So because this is the bathtub wall line, or the bathtub line, excuse me, and then these lines in the walls need to be also trimmed. So I'm going to do TR space, and then I'm selecting the cutting edges. Basically, which lines represent where I want to cut. So I might start with these. You don't have to do all the trimming at once. If you wanted to do a couple and then restart the command, you could. And it's when I'm done selecting cutting edges, you can hit space or enter or right click. Now what am I cutting off? I want to cut this off, and this line, these two lines. So now those are cut off. Oh, and this line too, right there. Again, if you have trouble selecting lines, because the mouse cursor is a pretty small little box now, you can easily zoom in with your mouse wheel, and then it's easier to pick those lines that you want. Okay, now there's a little bit more trimming I need to do. So I escape the command by right clicking or space or enter or escape. I'm going to start trim again. This time I'm selecting these as my cutting edges. And then I'm going to pick these lines as what I want to trim. I just did that very quickly, but remember you select your cutting edges, and then to move on to the next step, you have to either hit space, enter, or right click. I hit right click because my finger's already there, and then you select what you're cutting out. All right, so now there's the bathroom. It looks pretty good except for the door and the middle of the bathtub. So let's switch over to doing the doors. So again, we have dimensions here of 6 inches and then 3 feet for the width of the door and 6 and 2/6. Notice the 6-inch dimensions are measuring from the interior corner of the walls. So I can copy again, but I just want to make sure to copy the right lines. So I'm going to select this line and copy that over 6 inches. Oops, except I was sloppy there because you can see how the line went down when I copied. Now it's because I was going too fast and my polar went down at an angle. It's easy to make that mistake, so you got to be careful because you might think, oh, it's still copied, so what's the difference? But if it went 6 inches in a downward direction, that means it's not 6 inches horizontally. So that would place my door in the wrong spot. So I'm just going to delete that line and do it again. So sometimes it's easier to hit undo or just to do the same thing again if you have any doubt. So now I was a little more careful that time about using my polar and I went perfectly horizontal. A good opportunity to show you what not to do there. Now this line needs to extend all the way across to the outside wall line because that's the first line of my door opening there. I'm just going to grab the line and then grab the grip of the line and pull it down. As long as they have polar and O-snap on, you'll get an intersection O-snap there, which you know is accurate then. And then I can trim this top part off. So all I need is that little piece, but I know it's 6 inches from the interior wall line. Now I'm going to copy that over 3 feet, and 3 feet again is coming from the size of the door opening on the plan. So now there's my other side of the door opening. Now there's also a jamb shown here, which in my directions is shown as 2 inches. So I'm going to offset 2 inches, and then I offset this line to the left and this line to the right. Now, when you do the offset, you might have noticed that I did that by clicking way over to the side. So let me show you why. When you do your offset, if your object snaps are on, and if you click anywhere near the original line, it's very easy for your object snaps to grab an object snap you don't want. See, if I clicked right now, I would get the midpoint of the original line, which doesn't tell AutoCAD left or right, because that's on the original line. So I usually exaggerate and go way over to the side, because then there's no doubt or problem with the object snaps messing up my offset. Now I need to trim out the hole where the door is going to go. So I'm going to use the trim command again, and then select my 2 cutting edges, which are these 2 short lines, and then right click and select the 2 lines that I want to cut out. Again, a crossing window is sometimes a very fast way. So there's my hole for that door. I'm going to go ahead and do this one now too, and then I'll have both of the holes cut out. So I'll copy this line up. Again, I could use offset because a lot of times it doesn't really make a difference. Pull this grip across and trim off that line, and then I will copy this line up. Now this door is only 2'6" because it's a bathroom door, so I just need to be careful to type in my right sizes. And then I offset that up and offset that down, and now I have the frame established, and I retrim the opening in between. So now I have that opening cut out. So again, that was copy, offset, trim. Once you get the basic tools down, these same commands get used over and over and over again to solve any drafting problem you need. All right, so now the door itself. So we have 2 main parts here. We have a rectangle or 4 lines, and then we have an arc. I'm going to draw it as a rectangle and an arc because I think it's a very fast way to draw the door. So REC for rectangle. I'm going to make sure my O-snaps are on and click the corner where the door touches the wall, or the door frame really, because that's the only spot I know for sure based upon my existing geometry. Now I'm going to use the option at the bottom, D for dimensions. D space, and then I need to input a length. The length for the rectangle is always given horizontally first in the X direction. So that's going to be 2. And the width is then my Y direction, up and down, which would be 3 feet in the case of this door. Now I'm not quite done. I need to move my mouse around and decide, do I want the door to go up, down, left, or right? Basically, I just move my mouse toward the upper left and click, and that drops the door in that position. So again, REC space, click your first point, D for dimensions, and then you type in your X size horizontally, your Y size vertically, and then you click in the direction you want it to go, up, down, left, or right. Now let's do the other door over here while I'm in the swing of doing the rectangle command. So again, this one's only 2'6". So REC space, click your corner. Now D for dimensions. My horizontal size now, because the door is in a different orientation, is going to be the larger size, 2'6", 2'6", excuse me. And then my width is my vertical dimension, 2 inches, and then I need to click to the upper left, and then it drops in a rectangle. All right, now we need the arcs for the door swings. So I'm going to do A for arc. Now, the arc command by default expects 3 points. But the second point, one point is where the door is, and the other point is where the frame is. But the second point, I'm not exactly sure where that is. We don't have an object snap to use. So I do want to be precise. So what I'm going to do is the center option, C for center, and then click the intersection point between the swing and the frame, because that by definition has to be the center, because that's where the hinge goes. Now my start point needs to be the corner of the door, and my end point is the corner of the frame. And I specified it in that order in a counterclockwise direction. If I went the other way, I would have ended up with 3/4 of a circle that goes outside of my plan. So that wouldn't really give me the arc I need. So let me do this arc then. A space, C for center option, select that hinge point, click your frame, and then the door. Again, counterclockwise. See what happens if I go clockwise? See, I get the other side that I don't want. So I need to go this direction. And again, if you forget what step to do or what to do, read your command line, because that's always going to give you tips. Like if you can't remember to type C for center, well, read down there, and it reminds you center is an option for you. Okay, now the only thing left as far as the plan itself is the remainder of the bathtub, which you could bring in as a block, but in this particular assignment, you're asked to draw it so that you get the practice. So I'm going to use offset to get the lines, and then we'll use fillet command for the curved corners. So O for offset, I'm going to do 3 inches on this, and then offset my lines. Again, the offset command stays active, so I can offset as many lines as I need with the same offset spacing. Now I could go and trim all these, but I don't really need to, because the fillet command is going to do that for me. So I'm going to go straight to fillet, F space, and now I do need to change my radius because I want rounded corners. So R space, I'm going to try 3 inches for this as well, space, and then now I select my 2 lines. Click, click, and then I want to repeat the same command. So I'm going to right click or hit space or enter, select 2 more lines, and continue that. Now I have my little bathtub. Now the assignment does request that I make the bathtub into a block. So I'm going to select all those entities with a window. Again, a blue window will select anything completely inside the window. Green window will select anything that even touches the window. So I'm going to do a blue one because I don't want to grab too many things like wall lines that I don't need. Now I did get one wall line that I don't need, and that's right here. So if you want to unselect something, hold the Shift key. Then when you select it, it removes it from the selected objects. So these are the lines that I want to make into a bathtub. So I'm going to type B for block, and I give it a name like a bathtub. And I don't need to reselect my objects. You can see it says 9 objects selected here. If I did need to add some more, or maybe I forgot to do that first, you can click your select objects icon, and it would allow you to choose more. I do want to specify a base point. If you leave the base point at 0, 0, 0, it's going to have a reference point, but it's not going to have a logical position relative to the object itself. So click on the icon here for pick point, and click a corner object snap of the object that makes sense for a reference point. And that's pretty much it. I can hit OK, and now I have my block.